Thanks for calling in to Color Me Psychic today. Where are you calling in from today?
From Vermont.
Awesome. Welcome. And let's go ahead and dive right in. So, what question do you find yourself asking over and over that you want to explore today?
I think with my new second life, what what do I actually want to do with it?
Hmm,
What would make me happy and peaceful and purposeful in my second life?
I love that. Such a fun question. So, I want you to think about, just ponder that kind of question. Like, what would you do with your second life? What would bring you happiness and peaceful and purpose? And I want you to do a body scan. We're going to look for the part of your body that's making the most noise. So I
Mhm.
want you to look, and then once you find, you can take as much time as you need, but once you find it, let me know where the strongest sensation is.
I would say on the right side of my back and shoulder.
Okay, awesome. Good awareness. How would you describe the sensation on the right side of your back and your shoulder?
Um, Kind of like pinching under my armpit. So a lot of pinching under the armpit and um sort of like stricture, and then pretty linear down the right side of my spine.
Okay, awesome awareness. So I want you to take that the sensations in your armpit and running down your spine, and I want you to color it out on a piece of paper using any shape and color you want. Take
Okay.
as much time as you need, and then when it feels complete, you can let me know.
Okay.
So this is what you colored. Walk
Okay.
me through how coloring went. Like, what did you color first? Um, all of that good stuff.
So I colored the dark blue under under the sort of lighter blue lines coming out first.
Okay.
Sort of like if I was a better drawer, it would have been sort of like helical kind of, DNA looking blue swirlies,
Okay.
kind of back and forth.
Okay.
And then I colored this sort of, I don't know what that would be, lilac or periwinkle over that with like an underlying straight line and then all of those sort of branches coming from or off the blue helical kind of thing.
Mhm.
And then I colored the pink line. And then I colored the yellow ovals, sort of. And then the lines coming off the yellow ovals. And then I colored the teal to the far left.
Okay.
Or to my far left. I'm not sure how that looks on your screen.
Yeah, it does look far left as well. Okay. We're going to start with the blue helix or like the DNA shape. I need to look at
Okay,
something really quick.
sure.
You were the first person to draw a DNA shape, so this is really fun.
Of course,
Um,
it doesn't surprise me that I would be a little bit of the quirky outlier.
I love this. Anytime there's like new shapes and they're not just the ones that I see over and over again, it's so exciting. It adds a lot of variety, which is really great. So the blue specifically, so you can feel free to take notes. This is
Okay,
also going to be recorded. I'll send you the recording once it's up.
okay,
So if you want to take notes or if you just want to be present, kind of approach it whatever is best for you.
okay,
The I'm going to go through and talk about all the different shapes and colors in the meanings, and then we can tie it back to your larger question of what do you want to do with your second life.
okay,
The cool thing about this, especially when you're talking about uh, an opportunity or feeling optimistic and hopeful about the future and what you can create, chances are there's going to be some heavy and light shapes and colors and meanings that are going to appear together. Sometimes, if you're coloring something, it could be all heavy shapes and colors or all light shapes and colors. but for this particular coloring, it looks like there's a combination, which is cool because that typically means it's a sign that you're on the precipice of like a new chapter. And it typically means there's a lot of growth and healing that has happened, and you're getting ready to kind of take this new wisdom and your experiences and your new all of like the goodness that you've learned in the past chapters and bring it to create another chapter. A lot of times when we're on this precipice of a new chapter, that's also where our body and our mind can work together to say, hey, this is like the not so great stuff we don't want to bring into this new chapter, and just trying to sort out how to do that. So that's the preface of that.
Okay.
When for blue, and keep in mind that all of this stuff is just going to be clues that we're going to kind of compact or like put together and see what dots we can connect.
Okay.
Blue specifically, for you, this dark blue, it has to do with feeling hopeful about the possibility of the future. When we see DNA shapes, they have to do with an inner integration or reconnecting with your core values. So I would propose that the last few chapters that you've gone through, or your first life that has kind of helped give you or kind of illuminated the core values that you're like authentic core values, not the core values of other people's expectations or society's expectations, but really like your own personal core values.
Interesting.
Which is awesome.
Mhm.
With it going out in lines, like it protruding from the teal, the pink, and the yellow, and it kind of looks like it's growing out of the yellow too. That just, I'm going to propose that could possibly mean that that's what you want to center on, are your core values, aligning with yourself, and that's going to kind of be your guidepost, and like your North Star. When you colored, or when you were describing the purple, you described it as like a branch. Trees and branches have to do with community patterns that have been passed down to you. So it's not saying like you're gonna take the community patterns or society's patterns or your family patterns that aren't aligned with your core values. It's really just trying to amplify and show that the first chapter, or like your first life, it just amplified like the patterns or the experiences that you had. They were very formative, and there's wisdom there that you want to take into this next chapter and build off of, whether that's adding your own spice to it or using it as inspiration for creating something new.
Would that be for a feather too? Because it kind of looks like a feather to me.
Yeah, it's true. Feathers have to do with personal growth in this instance. And then the purple has to do with integrated. So integrated meaning that you're very comfortable and at peace with all the different aspects of yourself. It's like you have a very clear vision of like who you are, and your values and kind of what you need in order to like have your cup filled, and show up and do and create this new life.
Interesting.
So it's feeling like it's more integrated or harmonious, especially if it's centered around like the core values there.
Interesting.
The next thing you said you drew was the pink line. So pink in this instance has to do with confidence. Confidence in like trusting in your abilities. Typically what I've seen, with people who talk about or color about their core values or understanding and knowing themselves really deeply is, they have like a very clear sense of like who they are and their strengths and their weaknesses and like what they need in order to thrive. So it's really just feeling like you can trust yourself, and that trust in yourself and your abilities is like fueling this confidence. Lines specifically have to do with things that are setting you free. So that particularly would mean that being able to be realistic with about your with yourself, meeting yourself where you're at, but all of those things are going to help kind of open up more opportunities, make it easier for you to identify opportunities, and to kind of be in tune and make decisions that are aligned with you.
Interesting.
The next thing you said was the yellow ovals. The yellow and the teal, these are the only shapes and colors that are coming through as heavy. So the way, and it's interesting to see the way that you've colored it, because it looks like the pink is blocking the teal, like the energy of the teal. And then because of the pink, it's like the feathers growing out of the pink and breaking through this yellow.
Oh,
Um,
interesting.
so the yellow, it specifically is helping you see. So the yellow represents a lack of courageous behavior. So not typically when this shows up, it means that you're not making decisions that are aligned with you or your values or your like what you truly want and what's aligned with you. And that could be for a number of different reasons, right? It could be because of safety. It could be because of monetary needs. It could be because of what people's judgments. It could be community connections, like all of that. It looks like though, because it is ovals. Ovals have to do with not feeling comfortable expressing your like creative energy or your more like carefree, go with the flow, very creative, quirky even energy.
Okay. Interesting.
Then yeah, and this feels like an old pattern that maybe you had in your first life that you're like, I'm just gonna leave that leave that in your first life. Like it's not like you want to carry this with you. It's more of like your body saying like we're ready to really let this go. The interesting thing about the ovals is that you didn't color them a full solid color. So when we look at what white means, it just means isolation in this
Mm,
case. So not expressing your creativity or like your femininity or like it's basically the feminine energy. So the go with the flow, the creativity, the nurturing, the caring, not expressing that, it led to some isolation. And it could be isolation of like self-isolation for like self-preservation. It could be isolation from other people passing judgments. It could be a fear of like isolation. But something around that.
interesting.
The the lines are just your body's way of saying that this fear and not kind of integrating or accepting your full, like all aspects of yourself, which your body is also saying, like, hey, you have accepted all aspects of yourself. Because if we go back to the DNA line, that's essentially what that was. It's your body's way of just like reinforcing and kind of helping your brain see and training your brain that, like, if you don't integrate or express these parts of yourselves, you're really going to hold yourself back from creating a life that's like based on your values and what's going to bring you happiness and help you feel more peaceful and aligned.
Interesting.
Then the teal has to do with disappointment and then also depressed. So disappointment meaning that it felt like your hopes and your expectations weren't fulfilled. And because they weren't fulfilled, it led to just this lack of energy or enthusiasm for whatever it was. And this is your body's way of saying anytime we see lines that kind of are like zigzags or a little wavy and repeated over and over again,
Mm.
it's your body's way of saying like pay attention, like this is your cue, this is your sign. Like it's alerting your brain to say, hey, when we feel like a lack of energy or interest, if we're feeling like we're really disappointed in ourselves or in the way things are working out for us, that's like a sign or a cue that you're not aligning or you're not making decisions that are aligned with your core values or with what you truly need.
Interesting.
So that is what your beautiful picture is saying. Your body
Very,
wanted to have you.
very interesting. Very interesting. And it's interesting because you don't know how your body's going to answer the question, how the question relates to that is very interesting. Um, yeah, I don't even really know where to start except to say in my first life, probably until I was 45. So that's 9 years. I'm 54 now. Um, I grew up with the basis of a very strict, pigeonholed view of religion from my upbringing and what I should do and how I should, what I should believe, how I should um, behave. And that certainly affected how I lived my life and struggles that I had um, related to actually just like I'm asking the question, what do I want to do with my second life? I never really, until I was that age, had the wherewithal to say, like, what do I really believe? What do I really want? What do I really not believe? Um, and so I feel like that informed my life in all aspects. Um, yeah, so that was interesting um, part. And you can ask me questions, but I'm like trying to look over the little bit of notes I did take.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I think it makes a lot of sense. Like you sharing even just that little bit of maybe that's what the yellow and the teal represent.
yeah, that's interesting.
And you were able, through the course of asking yourself those introspective questions, it sounds like you found a lot of clarity and a lot of hope and a lot more alignment with who you are and what you need.
I
Um,
think authentically, yes, for sure.
yeah.
But I do think that created in I broke a lot of patterns in my family, um, both traumatic and I think so there was sadness and disappointment both on my part and my family's part, I would say. Um, because I grew up not being allowed to express essentially emotion that was, if it was contra to what my family believed, or, emotions were not a thing in my family.
Yeah.
I learned anything about processing emotions from Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, basically.
Oh, what a
Um,
great show.
yeah, which is a good show, but like
Yeah.
certainly doesn't scratch the surface of being able to identify with your
Yeah.
own messages. So yeah, some of that's in there. Um, and then also my second life, I've had a goal of, I am a very creative person, and I have been creative throughout my life, but with the changes that have happened in my early retirement that was unexpected, I tend to be a lemonade versus lemon person, and I've really wanted to get into even being more creative. And some of my physical and both my physical and my what word did you use? Community restrictions, because I'm disabled and I've had a lot of issues with my living situation being adaptable and not having the support in my living space with code violations and things like that that I've had to advocate for that were not done well, and sort of being in this political, all of a sudden being in this political, non-creative, structured focus, with like advocating for myself in those areas, and that taking time and effort, I have not been able to fulfill my creative goals that I've been wanting to. So then throughout that process, I got nominated to be, in an advisory or political role about accessibility. And so I have been sort of fighting my inner wants and responsibility, and also um my sense of duty to focus and make that a larger part of my life than I would want to in my second life.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
but also feeling like if I don't do it, who will do it, or who has the capacity to do it, or who's been tapped with this responsibility. And so you have like that whole, community growth, responsibility. But I just want to paint, and you know, I don't want to do that. I never wanted a desk job. That was never um, those were not my ultimate like life fulfillment desires, but I happen to be good at it. So sort of that inner interplay between the two in the second life has been hard to figure out how to do both and feel like that's the right thing to do.
Yeah, you just articulated the human experience, I feel like.
So
Right?
yes, I'm human. Yeah.
Like the deep yearning for wanting something that truly fills your cup, and then also realizing like you have so many gifts and um in such a different role, right? So having a very structured or very creative path, and finding the balance between the two, if they can coexist, if that's a possibility. If How do you balance those things? How do you balance those things and nurture yourself while doing it, and not burn yourself out, or um not fill your cup? I mean, those are all really big
Yeah.
questions that I think I know I'm grappling at this season in my life too with, and I know a lot of other people that I've colored with over the last few months are as well. So I think it's in the collective zeitgeist, but
Yeah,
also,
for sure.
yeah,
And I
it's
think also too, I was not disabled my whole life, I had a whole career and a whole whatever. And so the fact that disability and my health, I tend to be a person who doesn't want to focus on it a lot. Like I'm not like, while I appreciate that there are, communities online for that to, I've worked hard for it to not be my whole life that I'm disabled, or identify that that is like my sole purpose. So I think that's also the push and pull of yes, but you are, and you you can make that a positive thing if you affect change for others and you do things on that topic. But me going, yeah, but I still don't want to be disabled, and I still don't want to pay attention to that. I want to do these things instead. So it's that interplay of
uh,
identifying that I am disabled, whether I want to be or not, and that I can't ignore it.
which the meeting yourself where you're at, I know that that came up as like a topic in interpreting your coloring too. And the idea that when you meet yourself where you're at and accept like all aspects of it, that's when you're going to be able to see things more clearly, and maybe see opportunities that you haven't had like
Yeah.
open to or have seen in the past. I know for me, just a personal experience that I had recently, where I was grappling between two things and it felt like an either or. But then as I was starting to like kind of meet myself where I was at and take inventory of where I was able to see like this new possibility or new approach that I hadn't considered for months. I mean, this has been kind of an internal like push and pull for me, at least for the like last 6 months, I would say. But just being able to really be honest with myself. And it definitely helped. Like it felt like a weight was lifted off of me instead of feeling like I was trying to make a square peg fit in a round hole or
Right.
something.
Yes, like all these things can be true. There is a way. You just have
Yeah.
to find your way. So
Yeah.
I do think that that's where I am. It's just so interesting, how, your interpretation without knowing any of that.
Yeah, I mean, this really just came from your body though.
Interesting.
So the like this is just your body wanted to give you this specific message, and this was like the most important message. And what you'll see as you color, and what I love about color mending too, is that you're able to see um like the question you asked was like, what do I want my second life to look like? And it's bringing like your body's basically like, hey, yes, that is really important for you to understand, but also here's a message that is going to impact everything else. Like it doesn't just impact what you do in your second life, it impacts the way you show up in relationships, the way you approach your daily tasks, the way like all like how you prioritize your time. So there's so much wisdom in our body and in the emotions. And I am similar to you where I grew up in a very like religious environment, and light emotions were okay,
Yeah.
but the heavy emotions were not.
Yeah.
So I completely like empathize with where you're coming from too, and doing this work and trying to understand like what are these emotions, because they really are just beautiful messages. But when you, at least for me, I was taught that you should fear them, or it wasn't, I was like feeling this way because I wasn't reading the scriptures enough, or praying hard enough, or praying in the right way, or doing rituals in the specific way, or serving enough. But when it really comes down to it, it's like your body just has a bunch of wisdom, and we can't intellectualize our way to that wisdom. We just have to kind of go into our bodies and sit with it and see what those messages are as they kind of unfurl.
It was very cool. Thank you very much for,
Yeah,
working through the process with me.
you are so welcome. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for taking the time to color with me. Just for everyone who is listening, if you're interested in learning how to do color mending and interpret your own colorings, I have a 21-day program called the Coloring Bet that will teach you how to interpret your own colorings in 21 days. You can scan the QR code to learn more, or go to colormending.com. And if you're interested in scheduling your own Color Me Psychic reading, you can go ahead and scan this QR code, or also go to colormending.com. But thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.